This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, it's Jules here from Tapping with Jules, and I've just got with me here today Amber Slee, and I'm just doing this video to introduce Amber because she has a unique combination of skills and experience to offer people. So Amber, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jules. Hello, everyone. My name's Amber. I have a Bachelor in Counselling and Coaching, and so that just means I'm a Qualified Counsellor and Life Coach, and I'm also a EFT Practitioner, and I've been in the mental health disability sector for over 5 years now, and I went this way in my life from a long-term passion. Honestly, I remember being 3 or 4 years old and telling my mum that I was put on the earth to help people.
Right.
And yeah, I said things like that, you know, and she was, and yeah, you know, when I was younger, I thought I knew I was meant to help people in some capacity. I sort of dabbled with a teacher or nurse position, and
yeah, right.
It was in high school that it clicked, and I went, oh, I can help people through therapy.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
Good.
always had this sort of natural ability to sit down and talk to people, listen, you know, engage a warm space, open space for them. And yeah, it clicked, and at 14 I said, okay, I'm going to go do this, and I did.
Wow, that's determination from a young age.
Yeah.
So Amber, what I really am excited about in terms of your background experience is what we might call your niche, as in an area of interest for you and expertise, and that's in working with people who identify as being neurodivergent. And also, anyway, let's just start there. So could you explain a little bit about what that means and how you relate to that term?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So neurodivergence, or being neurodivergent, is simply just how our brains are wired, and there's a big movement at the moment that says, you know, that's all about affirming that, and that just people have differently wired brains. And this can come out in many different ways, but it's often seen as atypical in society, like not normal. You know, there's disorders or problems with it. The way I look at it is, no, we're just wired differently, and what works for me may not work for you, or, you know, we all have our different perspectives, our different skills and strengths. So part of that neurodivergent umbrella is ADHD, autism, processing disorders or processing issues. People even go so far as to say that complex PTSD and OCD fall under that. And for myself, I'm actually ADHD and autistic, and I do have a diagnosis of complex PTSD and OCD as well. So my brain is quite neurodivergent, if you will.
That's right.
Yeah. And it actually took me a while to realize that I was and get diagnosed, because I actually was just going through my work in the mental health and disability sector, and was obviously around people with neurodivergence quite a lot, especially autistic people. And I actually started seeing myself in them and their skills and qualities. And it wasn't until last year that I actually realized, hang on, that's me. Got my formal diagnoses and everything like that. But what I saw and what I've learned from my experience in these sectors and working with people with neurodivergence is that it is often stigmatized, where we're often told we have disorders, that we can't do certain things. In my experience, it's been the complete opposite with these people and in myself. We're very resilient, we're very adaptable. We just look at,
haven't you?
Exactly. We have to be. And so we just look at things in a different way and offer, as I said, different skills and strengths. And I've seen people really flourish when I've worked with them, particularly as a disability support worker. I've always been very person-centered and affirming of whoever that person is. And when we treat neurodivergence as normal and as just another part of human variation, I really see people thrive. Because they're able to live their authentic selves. They're not hiding anything from people. They don't think they're weird. So that's what I'm about.
And I love that in the written material that you supplied me with, that you said, you know, it's not about being something that needs to be fixed.
Yes.
So that there's this sort of you know, societal expectation, or it's sort of promoted that if you have ADHD or if you're on the autism spectrum or whatever, that this is a problem that needs to be fixed, and that people and that's, you know, particularly why I wanted to highlight what you do, because I feel that you know, because you're coming from that lived experience background to begin with, that makes a big difference. But you've got all the right skills and qualifications, including being certified in EFT. And I just thought, what a combination, you know, someone that can offer all those skills to a group that is pretty, you know, I imagine that, you know, people on the NDIS, EFT would just be so useful. And I don't know of anyone else that's doing it, you know. So I thought, we should really tell the world. This is how, and you don't have to be on the NDIS to access Amber services, but people who are who receive packages and funding through the NDIS, you're actually a provider, aren't you? So they can use their funding to work with you. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if any NDIS participants that have funding for, I would imagine it's in the therapy category, can actually use it towards seeing me and having sessions with me. And my business, Magnolia Wellbeing Services, is an unregistered provider, which just means that I can provide services, but I haven't got that registered, you know, name. But I can.
You've been approved, and you've got the screening checks and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yep. I'm screened and checked and everything, verified to work for NDIS as a provider. So anyone with funding, but of course, as you said, anyone that doesn't have funding can also access my service. Well,
So it might be somebody that that has ADHD or is on the spectrum, or none of the above, but just would like to work with you. Anyone can work with you. But the other thing that I feel is exciting, Amber, is that you work with children. So children and young people, as well as adults, carers of young people with neurodivergence. So can you tell us a little bit about your work with children and adolescents and young people?
So again, I think that stemmed from my passions, probably stemmed from I'm the eldest of 5. And we all have neurodivergence. And I watched my mum go through this mental health system and you know, just the health system in general in Australia that really doesn't offer much for neurodivergent kids. And especially myself, talking from experience, I fell through the cracks at school, and it was only myself that was keeping me up. And I nearly didn't make it through the HSC and things like that. And now I'm seeing that with my siblings and other kids on the spectrum and with other neurodivergencies, because the teachers just don't really know about it. Their parents are often don't really know what to do. And especially young girls and women, often like myself, don't get diagnosed until their late 20s or even in their 40s and 50s sometimes. We've got all these kids and adolescents that, you know, experiencing all these symptoms, and if they go to the doctor or they tell their parents, they might be named as something else or accidentally misdiagnosed. And no one's actually really there to help them utilize their strengths as being neurodivergent. You know, no one's looking at them going, oh my God, you can actually do all of this. And, you know, I've just come back to the school example, like the schooling is so rigid and study methods and homework is so rigid and so black and white, and that doesn't often work for us with autism and ADHD. And there's just not really many people out there that go, okay, well, how do you work? How can you, you know, how can you overcome that obstacle? And I've done it with children, and I've done it with myself. I mean, I had to do it for uni, going through the HSC as well. We just look at the strengths and work at minimizing stress, and
then the strengths come through.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, really good. And what about perhaps if you could tell us a little bit about EFT and perhaps how that's helped you from that sort of neurodivergent perspective.
Yeah. So I think, as we were talking before, we both feel that EFT is great for anything, but especially great for people like myself with neurodivergence, because EFT, which is emotion freedom techniques, as most of you will know, is such a good way for our mind to connect with our body. So even though we might not have any thoughts going on, our body is always going to be able to tell us what's going on, or if it remembers something, if it feels something, if there's stored stress in there. So a lot of us, with neurodivergencies, and I'll just talk about my experience again, having ADHD and being autistic, and especially with the OCD coming through, my mind is always racing. It's always going at 100, and if I try and organize something or do something, I get lost in all the little things that I have to do, and it sort of becomes one big overwhelming job or stress in my life. EFT for me just melted all of that away, because it really connected what was going on up here to what was going on in my body, and straight away it reduced the flow of the thoughts. It reduced my cortisol, and really relaxed my body. And by doing so, that allowed me to see things from a different perspective. And it also allowed me to have a bit of a break and go, oh, actually, I could try it this way, or there's a solution there, instead of just being so, lost in all my thoughts and going, oh my God, I've got so much to do, and I've got to do this, and how am I going to start that? Just melted it away. And then when you have that space, you're able to look at things differently. And
it helps you can think clearly, doesn't it? Like it helps sort of turn down all the noise of the stress, and then you can think clearly and just do the next step.
Exactly.
Whereas it's like, oh, there's too many steps. So
that's right. It's gone from this big thing to, okay, we can just go one step at a time, one day at a time. Which is really important for the body and for the mind.
And I'm imagining for lots of kids and parents of children who are neurodivergent, that EFT being a somatic modality, like it just gives us something to do to settle ourselves, doesn't it? So whether you're a parent or carer, or a worker, or a child or young person yourself, be so useful for you to be able to just teach people how to do EFT in a simple way to help themselves bring themselves calm in any situation, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
And anything else you'd like to say? Oh, the other thing I like about you, Amber, is trauma-informed awareness. Like I feel that you have a really high level of awareness around what being trauma-informed means. I think that's so important anyway, like full stop. But in terms of working with a fairly vulnerable group, anything that you would like to say about that?
So that's of the highest importance to me, as well as being neurodivergent affirming, is very trauma aware and trauma informed, and that's the trauma informed is the way I work as well. And what that really means is that I understand that basically everyone in life has their own traumas, and it can come out in any way in their life. It can show itself in any number of symptoms. And I think as therapists, as carers, parents, whoever, we just have to really be aware of that and help the person or the child through those symptoms. And a big part of being trauma-informed too is, again, the anti-pathologizing stance. There's not actually something wrong with you. There's nothing to fix. You're not this problem. You've been through some kind of trauma, And trauma isn't defined by the event. It's defined by how our body reacts. And the symptoms we have, and trauma symptoms are actually normal. They're really healthy. You know, that trauma symptoms are just our body keeping us alive, you know.
That's right.
So I never want to shame someone or say, okay, well, you have this disorder, or, you know, you need to be fixed. No, we just simply have to really let the trauma symptoms run their course, understand that they're part of keeping you alive. They're a normal part of life. And work with that very delicately and in a safe manner. You know, I'm never going to push someone to go into their trauma, or, you know, we've got to talk about this and open it up. And bringing it back to neurodivergent people, you know, for myself and for many people that I've worked with, and that I, you know, colleagues that I have in this sort of area as well. There is a lot of trauma in our lives, be it, you know, whatever, from anything, if it's recent or childhood or anything. And I think it's important to note that it is quite difficult for neurodivergent people to live untraumatized in the world the way it is, because we just, you know, the world just simply hasn't caught up or doesn't really understand how people's brains are wired differently and doesn't cater to that. So the world is very black and white.
Be a pretty triggering environment, can't it?
Exactly. And when you have a child in school who's, you know, maybe autistic or ADHD, OCD, and doesn't really know what's going on and is trying to fit into this box of life, you know, the way society tries to make us go through, it's not going to work, and it is going to be traumatizing for most people. So,
and very stressful for parents.
Exactly.
So I think that, you know, that psychoeducation component that I know that you include in your work, of just, you know, being able to educate people about the way trauma affects the brain and the body, and that it is possible to work on that stuff with EFT in a gentle and safe way. So I think that's exactly, I think you've got a lot to offer people.
Thank you.
So anything else that you'd like to cover in terms of the way you work, or just tell us what's the best way to get in touch with you, and I can always put the link in below. But do you see people on Zoom as well as? Yeah,
absolutely, yes. So I can completely do online, Zoom, Google, whatever will work for anyone is there. And then I'm actually here now in my little flat that I've set up, my studio, to see people if they're in the area. So I'm in Seven Hills in New South Wales. So if there's obviously anyone that's in the area, and
so locals can come and see you in person, but otherwise online is fine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's right. So I'll just say that, my services are, I do sessions with children, and those sessions do have a component of EFT, because it is really important for stress reduction and help the kids and the parents. But more with the children sessions, they are very catered towards the child and what their neurodivergencies are like. So look, if we're going to do like 5 minutes of EFT here, and then some art therapy, maybe some talk therapy, maybe going out in the garden, that sort of thing. It's just very person-centered, and driven by the child. And I do similar things with my sessions with adolescents and adults. EFT is a component, but I don't just do EFT. We'll incorporate other kinds of therapy to blend. Anything that's going to work best for the person. And
so you encourage people to you do like a free consultation first before people sign up with you? Is that how you work?
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to email me or call me, I do like a free 10 to 15 minute consultation beforehand. And so my email is amber@magnoliawellbeing.com.au. And my mobile is 0432 147 627.
Excellent.
And yeah, I'm always up for people either emailing and just asking for more information, because I've got some info packages like I sent you, or they can give me a call or ask me to give them a call, and I'll do a free 10-15 minute thing, and we can go
from a good match. Yeah,
that's right.
Great. All right, well, thanks, Amber. That's been really good, and I think there'll be a lot of people out there who'll be interested in and maybe for parents, so you like to speak to parents before you see kids.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So that we have a parent carer session where you also would introduce EFT to them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's such a good idea.
It's my rule that I'll see parents or caregivers first before engaging with any child work. So I'd like the parents or caregiver book in with me, and then we can go. It's just honestly to give the parents and caregivers some stress relief themselves, introduce them to EFT and get their history and any issues they might want to discuss, so that I know that I'm covering everything when I do see the child, and that they know, that their children's going to be in safe hands. This is what I do.
Out. Yeah,
exactly.
That's right. It just makes sense, doesn't it, that you've got to have that trust and rapport with a parent really before you can start with the kid, and then when all that stuff's done, then you can just focus on building rapport with the kid.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I imagine you're very good at.
Thank you.
All right, Amber, well, thanks for your time today, and I'll put the details for your contact in the bottom of this, and thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jules.
Bye.